such a youth.
Now, people, the town centre of Spanish Town, St. Catherine, was the scene of a broad daylight shooting on Sunday that resulted in the death of a man. The police have so far identified the man by his alias Rampos. He is believed to be a labourer of a Marchpin Road, Spanish Town address. The police say about 10:30 a.m., Rampos was on Burke Road when he was pounced upon by two men armed with handguns. The men fired shots hitting Rampos all over his body before making their escape on foot. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. The Spanish Town Criminal Investigation Branch is probing the incident. People, the police report say two men, but the video we may see is one man. Bam, 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 and him run off. But yo, I don't know about somebody was lucky to catch that incident on video. And you see the person who catch that video, yeah, just like how it happened, you have to be careful. Me I tell you, you have to be careful because these men, them no normal. Right there, so them say you're informer, you expose them. So me I tell you, lady, we catch that video, yeah, please be careful.
I realize that the National Housing Trust video riled up a lot of you, as it should, because it riled me up when I wrote about the information in April. But what are you going to do about it? Do you feel you can do something about it? I know many of you who have come to me and spoken to me saying, but you know, Lisa, it's going on for so long, we don't have any power. Well, actually, that's wrong. You do. And that's why I'm arming you with the information so that you can go out there and exercise your power, because you have it. Because you see, for a long time, Jamaica's progress has been held hostage by some tribal institutional practices by both the PNP and the JLP. Because guess what? What you don't realize is that board appointments that run places like NHT, like HART, and some of the other public agencies, these appointments and selections are made without any of your public scrutiny or any kind of objective criteria or any kind of parliamentary committee screening. And this is a reality of what we live in Jamaica for a very long time, where becoming the chairman of a public agency or a government board lies in the hands of the government minister in charge of that agency or the say-so of the prime minister of the country. So you see, these boards, they set the policy for the public agencies. They make the decisions on the budgetary expenditure, and also they sign off on the hiring of some of the executive officers that run the agencies. So once the approvals are given, then the country learns about it via the tabling of who these boards are in cabinet. After cabinet has made those appointments, they learn about it when it's tabled in parliament or when it's made public. So I recall, you know, when I became a cabinet minister back in 2012, and I was a little naive because I was coming from a value system where competence trumps loyalty. And I figured that the persons who should head the boards of my agencies should be people that have run profitable organizations successfully, understood the management or best practices in management. They understood efficiency, innovation. They understood how to work with people, and they had that experience. And so I had CEOs that I was selecting as chairman of boards and heads of corporations, etc. But apparently I was wrong, because some of the comments I got was, Lisa, you don't know him as a labourite. You can't put him for head your board, or you can't put she as a board member. And I remember one person that I selected as a chairman saying that they weren't prepared to work with the deputy that I had selected because the deputy was a known supporter of the other side and they weren't going to work with him. Well, I didn't move either one of them. And that's how I had set up my boards, because it wasn't important for me which side you supported. What was important is that you had the competence to understand that it was about the people and making sure that people's lives were improved in record timing. And so the question is, for you, is it in your best interest, Jamaica's best interest, for board appointments that run these large public agencies, essentially, to be done on political bias versus objective criteria? And that's where your power lies. Because public bodies comprise statutory bodies in Jamaica. And these are authorities that some are government-owned companies, and collectively they represent approximately 150 active public bodies that perform, certain regulatory, administrative, technical, and other functions. But there are some of these public bodies that are commercial in their activities, and they're a subset of the larger group of 150, and they're called self-financing public bodies. And they receive money from cash flows, and guess what? Your payroll taxes. And so for this financial year, the Ministry of Finance expects that this group of self-financing companies, which is about 53 companies, is projected to realize revenue of approximately $646.21 billion, call it $647 billion. And that represents about 48% of our total national budget, which is $1.34 trillion. So the government says, look, to facilitate the development agenda and enhance operations of the country, the public bodies have forecast that they will spend approximately $97 billion on capital expenditure, not recurrent expenditure, new expenditure. That's building things, doing new things. And so the breakdown is that the National Housing Trust will spend approximately $50.7 billion. You have the National Water Commission for $10.82 billion. You have the Port Authority of Jamaica that's planning to spend $7.9 billion. And those three public bodies, self-financing public bodies, are spending about 72% of the $69 billion or $67 billion of planned capital expenditure for this financial year. And then you have other breakdowns like the Port Authority of Jamaica, which is about $3 billion. Then you have the Airports Authority, you have HAJ, which makes up about 12% of the capital expenditure. Now, the significance of taking an economic decision or not having objective criteria to select heads of boards to oversee these kinds of public bodies is really brought into sharp focus when you considered historical examples of the losses incurred by a company called Air Jamaica, for example, and the sugar industry and the JUTC, just to name a few. And the losses created the necessity for budget deficits in our country, leading to high interest rates at the time, and borrowing from the International Monetary Fund and then subsequent devaluations of the dollar. So you recognize that unlike private sector that takes critical decisions as to who is going to make the decisions for the profitability of the company, what happens in the public sector, or certainly government board appointments for even places that are spending inordinate or billions of dollars is really done primarily on political bias. So when you look at, say, the dismal growth rates that we've had over the last 30 years compared to some of our other Caribbean nations like Domrep and Barbados and Trinidad, you can probably trace some of that to poor management decisions by some of these statutory companies that are expected to push the country forward. And whether or not we wanted to agree with it, the truth is that governments are inefficient and bureaucratic when it comes to running and managing certain things. And when you add to this matrix ineffective and incompetent management at board levels for agencies that you expect to add exponential value to your economy, then nothing is going to move forward. And so the impact of these kinds of decisions that governments are making goes far beyond the present. And it will have profoundly adverse effects on the future generations coming forward. And so the question you must ask yourself, which is where your power lies, are the appointments to public agency boards, should those decisions that are going to be taken prevent, whether they're terrible or not, if they prevent that entity fulfilling their mandate, then who should be held responsible, right? For example, who should hold the National Housing Trust or any other public board accountable when they don't meet their mandate for the financial year? Just simply put, is the public expected, are you expected to wait for the minister to question and terminate that board? Or should the minister come to you and say, look, here's where we are? Are you demanding that though? Because you see, to my mind, what you should be demanding is that companies like Heart, or public bodies like Heart, and the National Housing Trust, which receive billions of your tax dollars directly, whether you pay it directly or it comes directly from your salary to fund the programs and infrastructure and for you to directly benefit from that, because it's illegal not to pay it, then you should be saying we should have a say in who becomes the head of those boards, and that there should be a public vetting process versus only a ministerial appointment to be approved by cabinet. You should be saying, we want to know the competence of the board. Since we're paying our money to that entity, to run that entity, which is costing $12 billion of my taxpayers' money for this financial year, essentially, we want to know who at the board level is making those decisions. And the truth is, you must also ask yourself, should those boards be evaluated every 2 years against the targets that they have to the public or parliament? You know, I'm given the responsibility as a parliamentarian, as an MP. I came and found a system where I'm given the responsibility to choose the board chair and the board members for Monique College and some of the other schools in my constituency. And when I became member of parliament the first time, soon to be 18 years ago, I said, but why am I being given this responsibility? I'm not trained in education, curriculum development, or any kind of technical approach. And so I asked myself why. And now when I look at the 2021 Reform of Education report by Orlando Patterson, which says, look, most of the people leaving primary school in Jamaica are either illiterate and innumerate, and those who are leaving secondary school with no marketable skills, then guess what? I am also to be blamed, because I need to take collective responsibility for where our education system is also today, because the people that are making the decisions for some of those schools are selected by the members of parliament who run constituencies. Yes, the 63 of us. Ask yourself, why are we the ones given that responsibility? Why? So it's time that you start demanding more public accountability from your leaders and from both political parties. And guess what? You think I come because I want to stand up only in front of you? I'm arming you with information. I've been arming you with information for the past 3 years, because both political parties have been guilty of tribal nepotism for too long, which have really only stagnated the economic growth or education and really the quality of life for our people. And so you ask yourself, you're on the eve of another general election, and less than basically 30% of those who can vote are voting. Because many of you feel that, look, it don't make no sense. What may I vote for? Right? It doesn't make any sense, but you don't realize that we're at a tipping point in our country where we're becoming a fledgling democracy, because many of you don't realize the power that you have. And that power is to hold us, your leaders, accountable. Whether it is the government or the opposition, you are smart enough. You know the information. Whether you stand up and drink a glass of white rum at one country bar, or you've graduated and you're now in a job making millions of dollars a year, whether you're a farmer or you're a teacher, whether you're a self-business owner, a small business owner, whether you're a content creator, all of you understand that at the end of a month, you have bills to pay. You understand that the cost of living is high. You understand that you see other countries moving ahead. What's going on with us? And you know the systems are not working the way you want them to work. So what are you going to do? Sit down? You need to start rising up and speaking about it. Because if you don't, then the republic that you all say you want is not going to be one that's robust and formidable and punches above its weight class economically, socially, or educationally. It will be one of a banana variety. Because you all are just sitting down and not using your activism. And so it is time you have the information. You know that boards run these places. Start asking questions. Start asking questions both of the government and the opposition. Ask them what are they going to do differently so that you can live a better life in this country. So let me know what you think.